You know what's crazy? We live in a world where tough means surviving a Wi-Fi outage or getting through Monday without coffee. But 2,500 years ago in ancient Sparta, 7-year-old boys were ripped from their mother's arms and thrown into a military training system so brutal, so unforgiving, that most of us wouldn't last a single day. Tonight I'm taking you on a journey, not just any journey, but 10 days inside the most hardcore military training program in human history, the Spartan agoge, where boys became warriors, where comfort was the enemy, where survival wasn't guaranteed, it was earned. So get comfortable in your bed because you're about to experience something your body never will. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let me transport you to ancient Sparta. But before we begin this journey together, if you're enjoying these historical deep dives, hit that subscribe button. It really helps me create more immersive experiences like this one. Now, let's begin. Day 1. The Oath of Initiation. The rooster hasn't even thought about crowing yet. It's that weird hour where night and morning blur together. Maybe 4 a.m, though you don't own a clock. Time is measured differently in Sparta. Time is measured in pain. Your feet hit the cold earth floor, and immediately you know something's different. This isn't your bed. Hell, it's not even a bed. It's a reed mat, thin as paper, laid directly on packed dirt. Your back already aches, and the day hasn't even started. The air tastes metallic, like blood and iron mixed with morning mist. Outside you hear movement, shuffling feet, muffled coughs, the scrape of bronze on stone. Other boys, some as young as 7, are already stirring. Nobody speaks. Speaking without permission means punishment, and nobody wants punishment on day 1. A horn blasts, not a gentle wake-up call. This thing could wake the dead. Your stomach clenches, partly from fear, mostly from hunger. See, you went to bed hungry last night. You'll go to bed hungry tonight too. That's the Spartan way. You stumble outside into the pre-dawn darkness. About 30 boys surround you, ages ranging from kids who still have baby fat to young men with the first wisps of beard. The instructor, they call him the trainer, stands waiting. He's maybe 40, built like a bull with scars crisscrossing his arms like a roadmap of violence. His eyes scan the group like your livestock at market. Today, he growls, you begin to understand. That's it. No welcome speech. No orientation packet, just those 5 words hanging in the cold air. Breakfast, if you can call it that, is already waiting. Black broth, the infamous blood soup. You've heard stories about this stuff, but nothing prepares you for the reality. Imagine someone boiled pork in vinegar, added blood for thickness, threw in enough salt to preserve a corpse and decided, yeah, this'll build character. You take your first sip and nearly gag. It's not just bad, it's aggressively awful, like someone weaponized soup. The taste coats your mouth, metallic and sour, with chunks of something floating in it. But here's the thing. You drink it. You drink every drop because this is all you're getting until evening. Maybe. An older boy next to you, maybe 13, sees your face and almost smiles. Almost. Gets worse, he whispers, barely moving his lips. 2 words. That's all he risks. The trainer claps once, time to move. You're barefoot. Let me repeat that, barefoot. Not minimalist shoes barefoot. Not, oh, I'll toughen up gradually barefoot. Just straight up, no protection, feel every sharp rock barefoot. The ground is a mix of dirt, gravel, and what you're pretty sure are thorns placed there specifically to test you. You run. Not jog, not warm up with a light pace. You run like wolves are chasing you because in the instructor's mind they might as well be. The path leads uphill immediately, of course it does, winding through olive groves and rocky outcrops. Your feet scream with each step. You can already feel the blisters forming, popping, reforming. 20 minutes in, your lungs burn like you're breathing fire. The black broth sloshes in your stomach, threatening to make a reappearance. But stopping isn't an option. A boy ahead stumbles, goes down hard. The instructor doesn't even slow down. Neither does anyone else. The boy scrambles up, blood streaming from his knee, and keeps running. That's lesson number 1. Nobody's coming to save you. The sun starts to rise, painting the mountains purple and gold. It would be beautiful if you could appreciate it through the pain. Sparta sits in a valley surrounded by peaks that trap the heat in summer and funnel cold winds in winter. Natural fortifications, they call it. Natural torture chamber, more like it. You've been running for an hour when the instructor finally raises his hand. You stop, or more accurately, you collapse. Your feet are hamburger, actual hamburger. You can see raw flesh where the skin used to be. Around you, boys dry heave, clutch their sides, try not to cry. Crying is discouraged, strongly discouraged. Water, the instructor says, pointing to a stream. You crawl to it like an animal. The water is mountain cold, shocking your system. You drink too fast, choke, drink more. It tastes like life itself. Enough. That's it. Water breaks over. Maybe 90 seconds total. Now comes the fun part. Yeah, that was just the warm-up. The instructor leads you to a cleared area where wooden posts stand in rows. Training dummies, though dummy is generous. These are basically logs with a crossbeam, designed to take a beating. Beside each post lies a wooden sword and a shield that might as well be made of lead. The shield weighs at least 30 pounds. Doesn't sound like much until you have to hold it up for hours. The wood is reinforced with bronze about 3 feet across, designed to protect not just you, but the man beside you in formation. That's the thing about Spartan warfare. It's not about individual glory, it's about the unit, the phalanx. You hold your shield high to protect your neighbour's exposed side. He does the same for you. Trust isn't optional, it's survival. Your arm shakes within minutes. The shield wants to drop, but dropping your shield is unthinkable. There's a saying in Sparta, come back with your shield or on it. Your mother tells you this when you leave for war. Think about that. Your own mother basically says, victory or death, son, no pressure. You drill basic positions, high guard, middle guard, thrust, block. Sounds simple. It's not. Every movement has to be perfect, economical, lethal. Waste energy and you die tired. The instructor walks among you, correcting with his stick. And by correcting, I mean hitting whatever body part is out of position. Your ribs, shoulders and shins quickly become a symphony of bruises. The sun climbs higher. Sweat stings your eyes, soaks through your simple tunic. Around you, boys grunt with effort, occasionally cry out when the instructor's stick finds a particularly sensitive spot. But nobody quits. Quitting isn't just failure, it's exile, dishonour. In Sparta, death is preferable to cowardice. By midday, your arms feel like they're going to fall off. The shield might as well be made of mountain stone. But here's the weird thing. You find a rhythm. Pain becomes background noise. Your body moves without conscious thought. This is what they're building. Warriors who can fight when thinking becomes impossible. As afternoon crawls on, you move to formation drills. This is where Spartan warfare gets interesting. Real Spartan fighting is about becoming a human wall. Shields locked together, spears bristling out like a porcupine made of death. You practice the basic phalanx formation, 8 men wide, 3 deep. Each man's shield overlaps his neighbour's. When done right, it creates an almost impenetrable barrier. When done wrong, people die. The crash of wood on wood echoes across the training ground as shields lock together. You become one organism with many legs, many spears, one purpose. You march in unison, or try to. Keeping formation while moving is incredibly difficult. You stumble, shields separate, formation breaks. The instructor's stick finds ribs. You do it again, and again, until your legs move without thinking. As the sun starts its descent, you're finally allowed to stop. Your entire body feels like one giant bruise. Evening meal is the same black broth, with a small piece of barley bread. Hard as rock, tasteless as cardboard, but it might as well be the finest feast. As darkness falls, you're led to your sleeping quarters. It's basically a long building with a roof and not much else. No beds, no pillows, no blankets, just reed mats on the dirt floor. You're each given a single rough cloak, the famous Spartan cloak that has to last all year. You collapse onto your mat. Every muscle screams, your feet throb with each heartbeat. Tomorrow will be worse. You know this instinctively, but part of you is already adapting. The human body and mind are incredibly plastic. Push them hard enough, consistently enough, and they change. As you lie there in the darkness, you realize this is just day one. Day one of a system designed to forge warriors so disciplined that they would stand in the gates of Thermopylae and face down the largest army in the world without flinching. Your eyes close. Tomorrow the horn will sound before dawn. Tomorrow the pain begins again. But tonight, for just these few hours, you rest. This is the way of Sparta. This is day one. Day 2. Endurance of stone. The horn tears through your dreams like a blade. It's still dark. Darker than yesterday. Your body doesn't want to move. Every muscle feels like it's been beaten with hammers. The reed mat might as well be made of thorns for how comfortable it feels against your bruised ribs. But you move anyway. That's the first real lesson of Sparta. Your body's opinion doesn't matter. The boy next to you, the one who whispered "gets worse" yesterday, is already up. His movements are stiff but practiced. He's been here longer. His feet are calloused, thick as leather. His eyes have that 1,000-yard stare that comes from pushing past your breaking point so many times that you forget where it used to be. Outside, the morning air bites with mountain cold. Your single cloak does almost nothing against it. Around you, boys emerge from the barracks like ghosts, silent and shivering. Nobody speaks. The trainer is already waiting, standing next to what looks like a pile of rocks. No, not rocks, stones. Cut stones, each one roughly the size of a man's head. Your stomach drops. Today, he announces, you learn to carry weight. That's it. No further explanation. In Sparta, explanations are for the weak. But first, breakfast. The same black broth from yesterday, though somehow it tastes worse on the second day. The metallic taste of blood and vinegar coats your mouth. Your stomach, already cramping from hunger, protests violently. You force it down anyway. Here's the thing about Spartan training. The hunger is intentional. They keep you constantly underfed, constantly on the edge of starvation. Not enough to kill you, they're precise about that, but enough to make you desperate, enough to make you cunning. Spartan boys were expected to steal food to supplement their rations. Getting caught meant a beating, but the crime wasn't in stealing. The crime was in being clumsy enough to get caught. They wanted to create soldiers who could survive behind enemy lines, who could take what they needed without being detected. The trainer points to the pile of stones. Pick one. You approach the pile with the others. The stones are heavier than they look, maybe 40 pounds each. You hoist one up, feeling your back muscles scream in protest. The weight settles onto your shoulders like a yoke. Up the mountain. Dawn line, don't drop the stone. You start walking. The path is steep from the very first step. Your legs, already destroyed from yesterday's running, shake with each movement. The stone digs into your shoulders through the thin tunic. Within minutes, you're sweating despite the cold. The boy who whispered to you yesterday is ahead on the path. His stone looks bigger than yours, but he moves with steady rhythm. Up ahead, you can see other boys struggling, stone slipping, feet stumbling on loose rocks. 10 minutes in, your shoulders are on fire. 20 minutes, and your lower back has joined the party. The path gets steeper. Your breathing becomes ragged gasps. A boy near you drops his stone. It rolls off the path, crashing down the mountainside. The trainer is on him immediately. The stick cracks across the boy's back. Retrieve it! The boy scrambles down the rocky slope in the darkness, chasing his stone. When he finally gets back to the path, he has to start from the beginning. That's the rule. Drop your burden, and you start over. You grip your stone tighter. The sun starts to rise as you near what you think might be the top. The dawn line, a painted mark on a large boulder, comes into view. Boys who've already made it stand there, stones still on their shoulders, waiting. Reaching the line isn't the end, it's just the beginning. When the last boy finally staggers to the line, the one who dropped his stone now on his third attempt, the trainer speaks again. Down, different stone, up again. Your heart sinks, but you obey. Down the mountain, legs shaking so badly you nearly fall a dozen times. Pick a new stone, this one's heavier. Back up the mountain. This continues for hours, up and down, different stones each time. Some round and smooth, others jagged and cutting. Your shoulders are raw. Your back muscles have gone from screaming to a kind of numb fire. You stop thinking about the pain and just move. One foot in front of the other. Don't drop the stone. By the time the sun reaches its peak, you've made 7 trips. Or is it 8? You've lost count. All that matters is the stone, the path, and not falling. Several boys have collapsed lying by the side of the path, gasping like landed fish. The trainer ignores them. In Sparta, you get up on your own or you don't get up at all. Finally, the trainer calls a halt. You drop your stone, carefully, deliberately, and claps. Your whole body shakes. You can't feel your shoulders anymore. Water, the trainer says, pointing to a small spring. You crawl to it. Actually crawl. Your legs won't support you anymore. The water is cold and tastes of minerals, but it's the best thing you've ever tasted. You drink deeply, then pour some over your head. But there's no rest. After a few minutes, the trainer has you all on your feet again. Now comes combat practice. Your shield feels impossibly heavy after the stone carrying. Your arms shake just holding it in position. But you drill anyway. High guard, middle guard, thrust, block. The movements you started learning yesterday, now performed on legs that can barely stand. This is the genius of Spartan training. They don't wait for you to recover. They train you exhausted, train you hungry, train you when your body has nothing left to give. Because in real combat, the enemy won't wait for you to feel fresh. A boy next to you passes out during sword drills, just drops, shield clattering on the ground. The trainer steps over him and continues the lesson. After a few minutes, the boy's eyes flutter open. He struggles to his feet, retrieves his shield, and rejoins the formation. Nobody helps him. This is normal. The afternoon brings more formation work. You practice the phalanx, but now with exhaustion so complete that you can barely see straight. Shields clash together. You struggle to maintain position. The boy next to you is swaying on his feet, and you have to compensate, shifting your shield to cover his weakness. When your brother falters, you don't let him fall. You cover for him until he finds his strength again. As the sun begins to set, you're finally allowed to stop. Your body doesn't feel like your own anymore. It's just a collection of pain points held together by will. Dinner is the same black broth and hard bread. You notice some boys eyeing each other's portions, already learning to gauge who might be weak enough to steal from later. The hunger is a constant companion now, gnawing at your insides. In the barracks, you collapse onto your reed mat. Your shoulders are so damaged you can't lie on your back. Your legs twitch and spasm, muscles confused by the abuse. Tomorrow will bring new torments, you're certain of that. But something strange is happening. The boy who seemed so hard this morning, he shares a small piece of bread he managed to hide. It's not kindness exactly. It's investment. He's building alliances that might keep him alive later. You tear off half and give it back to him. He nods, understanding. You're learning the real lessons of Sparta now. Strength isn't just in your muscles. It's in knowing when to be stone and when to be water. When to endure alone and when to build connections that might save your life. Your eyes close, and sleep takes you like a hammer blow. In your dreams, you're still carrying stones up an endless mountain, forever climbing, forever enduring. This is day 2. You survived. Barely. Day 3. Silence and shadows. You wake before the horn. That's new. Your body has started to anticipate the pain, preparing itself in the darkness like an animal sensing a storm. The boy next to you, your bread-sharing ally from last night, is also awake, staring at the ceiling. Neither of you speaks. Speaking wastes energy, and energy is currency here. When the horn finally does sound, it feels almost anticlimactic. You're already up, already moving, already resigned to whatever fresh hell awaits. Your feet hit the ground and you wince. The blisters have hardened into thick calluses overnight, but the raw spots between them sing with pain. Outside, something's different. The trainer stands in complete silence, not even acknowledging your presence as you line up. No grunt of approval or disapproval, nothing. Just his eyes scanning the group like he's counting inventory. He raises one finger to his lips. The gesture is clear. Silence. Complete silence. Then he turns and walks away. You follow, because what else can you do? The entire group moves like a ghost army. 30 boys trying not to make a sound. Every footfall seems thunderous, every breath too loud. Someone's stomach growls and it might as well be a war drum. The trainer leads you to a different part of the compound, an area you haven't seen before. Training dummies stand in rows, but these are different from yesterday's simple posts. They're wrapped in cloth, with bells and metal pieces attached at various points. One wrong strike and they'll ring out your failure. He demonstrates once, a smooth thrust with the wooden sword sliding between these bells without touching them. The blade finds its mark, a small red circle painted on the dummy's throat, and withdraws just as silently. He steps back and points at you, all of you. You approach your dummy like it might bite. The wooden sword feels clumsy in your hands after yesterday's stone carrying destroyed your grip strength. You thrust forward, trying to mirror the trainer's movement. The tip of your sword clips a bell. The sound is deafening in the silence. The trainer's stick finds your ribs before the ringing even stops. You bite down on the grunt of pain trying to escape. Making noise means another strike. You've learned that much already. You try again and again, each attempt teaching you something new about control, about precision. This isn't the brutal hammering from yesterday's combat drills. This is surgery. This is the difference between a warrior and a butcher. The boy at the dummy next to yours has found a rhythm. His blade slides in and out like a serpent's tongue, never touching the bells. You watch from the corner of your eye, trying to steal his technique. In Sparta you learn or you suffer. There's no third option. Here's something most people don't understand about the Spartans. They weren't just brutal warriors. They were among the most disciplined soldiers in history, and that discipline extended to silence. They perfected the art of communicating without words, of moving without sound. The word laconic, meaning to speak briefly and concisely, comes from Laconia, the region where Sparta stood. When a foreign king threatened to destroy Sparta if he invaded, saying, "If I invade Laconia, I will raze Sparta to the ground," the Spartans sent back a one-word reply, "if." That's the lesson hidden in today's training. Words are weapons. Use them sparingly. Use them well. By midday, your arms shake from the constant controlled movements. The sun beats down mercilessly, and still no one has spoken. A few boys have tried. Habit is hard to break. But the trainer's stick has taught them better. One boy made the mistake of crying out when struck. He's been running laps ever since, carrying his shield above his head. No black broth this morning, no bread, nothing. The hunger has evolved from yesterday's sharp pain into something deeper, more primal. Your body is eating itself, consuming muscle to keep moving. You can feel yourself getting smaller, harder, like iron being hammered into shape. The trainer finally breaks his silence with a sharp whistle. You freeze, sword extended toward your dummy. He points to the ground. You drop, all of you, bellies in the dirt, and begin crawling. The ground here is different, rougher. As you crawl, you realize why. It's been deliberately seeded with sharp stones, thorns, broken pottery. Every movement forward costs you. Your knees are bleeding within minutes, your palms look like raw meat. But you crawl silently, that's the requirement. Silent as snakes, the trainer had demonstrated. Any sound, a grunt, a scraped rock, a snapped twig, brings the stick. You learn to distribute your weight, to test each hand placement before committing, to breathe in tiny, controlled sips that don't disturb the dust. Afternoon fades to evening, and still you train in silence. New exercises now, moving through obstacles without touching them, threading between posts in the growing darkness. Your night vision sharpens out of necessity. Your hearing becomes acute, tracking the movements of other boys by their breathing alone. Then comes the real test. The trainer produces strips of cloth, blindfolds. Your stomach drops. Everything you've learned about moving silently becomes 10 times harder when you can't see. He pairs you up. One blindfolded, one guiding, but the guide can't speak, can't touch, can only make subtle sounds to direct their partner through an obstacle course that will definitely draw blood if you mess up. You're blindfolded first. The darkness is complete, disorienting. Your partner, the bread-sharing boy, makes a soft clicking with his tongue. Left. You move left, hands extended, feeling air. Another click. Doubled. Stop. You freeze. A soft whistle, barely audible. Duck. You drop low, feeling something pass over your head. This continues for what feels like hours, but is probably minutes. Your world shrinks to those tiny sounds and the trust that your partner won't let you impale yourself on whatever sadistic obstacle the trainer has arranged. When the blindfold finally comes off, you're drenched in sweat, but you've made it through without hitting anything. Now you guide. Your partner puts on the blindfold and immediately you understand the weight of responsibility. His safety is in your hands, one wrong signal and he bleeds. You develop your own language of sounds quickly, a hiss for danger, a chirp for safety, rhythmic clicking for direction. Night has truly fallen now. The trainer lights no torches. Darkness is another teacher, and she has lessons of her own. You're sent out in pairs to retrieve items hidden around the compound. But here's the catch. Sentries patrol with sticks. Get caught moving, make any sound, and you start over. You learn to move between shadows like water, to freeze mid-step when a sentry turns, to communicate with your partner through breathing patterns alone. The cold mountain air bites at your exposed skin, but shivering makes noise so you don't shiver. You simply endure. One pair gets caught early, their footsteps too heavy on gravel. They're sent to run the perimeter until the exercise ends. Another boy sneezes, actually sneezes, and his punishment is creative. He must stand perfectly still, holding his shield above his head until the rest complete the task. You and your partner succeed through patience more than skill, moving so slowly that progress is almost imperceptible. It takes an hour to cover what would normally be a 5-minute walk, but you return with your assigned item, a small bronze disc hidden beneath a loose stone, without detection. As the exercise ends, you're finally allowed to return to the barracks, still in silence. The trainer hasn't given permission to speak and no one's brave enough to test if the day's rules still apply. Dinner appears, the usual black broth and bread, but eating in enforced silence makes it somehow worse. Every slurp, every chew seems obscenely loud. You eat as quietly as possible, tearing tiny pieces of bread, letting them dissolve rather than chewing. On your mat, exhaustion pulls at you, but your mind races. Today's lessons sink deep. Silence as a weapon. Darkness as an ally. Trust built without words. Your body aches in new ways. Not the brutal beating of the previous days, but 1,000 small cuts and scratches that map your education in stealth. The boy next to you catches your eye in the darkness. He nods once. A whole conversation in that gesture. You both survived. You both learned. Tomorrow will bring new trials. But tonight the silence wraps around you like armor, and you understand something fundamental about Spartan training. They're not just building warriors, they're building weapons that think, that adapt, that strike from shadows and communicate without sound. Your eyes close, even your dreams are silent. Day 4, March of Hunger. Something different greets you this morning. Not the usual pre-dawn darkness. Today, pale grey light already filters through the barracks when movement begins. No horn either, just the sound of gear being distributed outside, the clank and scrape of bronze and leather. Your stomach announces itself immediately. 3 days of black broth and bread scraps have turned hunger into a living creature that gnaws at your insides. The boy next to you looks hollow-eyed, his cheeks already showing the sharp angles of starvation. Everyone looks smaller somehow, like the mountain air is slowly erasing you all. Outside, piles of equipment wait in the morning mist. Real equipment this time, not the training versions you've been using. Bronze-faced shields that gleam dully in the weak light, spears with iron points, leather armor pieces, and something that makes your heart sink. Marching packs loaded with supplies. The trainer stands before the assembled gear like a general inspecting his arsenal. He looks different too, more formal. His own bronze armor catches the light, and for the first time you see him not as a torturer but as what he really is, a Spartan warrior. Full kit, he announces. Today you march as soldiers. No explanation of where or why. In Sparta, soldiers don't need to understand the mission, they need to complete it. The shield alone weighs more than any stone you carried yesterday, bronze-faced, 3 feet across, with a leather grip that's already slick with moisture from the morning air. You strap it to your left arm and immediately understand why yesterday's stone carrying wasn't just punishment, it was preparation. The shield pulls at your shoulder, throws off your balance, makes every movement awkward. The spear is 8 feet of ashwood topped with an iron point. Too long for comfortable carrying, too heavy to ignore. You grip it in your right hand, trying to find a position that doesn't make your arm scream immediately. But it's the pack that really hammers home what you're facing. Leather and bronze fittings, loaded with supplies you can't identify but can definitely feel. Food for the march, water, precious little of it, tools, extra gear. The whole thing weighs as much as a man and it goes on your back. Here's what they don't tell you about Spartan soldiers. They were pack animals as much as warriors. A fully equipped Spartan carried up to 60 pounds of gear into battle. Their famous bronze shield alone weighed 15 pounds. Add the spear, sword, armor, provisions and personal kit, and you're looking at a load that would break most modern hikers. And they didn't just carry it, they fought with it, marched for days with it, slept with it. The trainer demonstrates the proper way to don the pack. Weight distribution is everything. Too high and you'll topple backward. Too low and your lower back will snap. The leather straps bite into your shoulders immediately, right where yesterday's stone carrying left its mark. Formation, the trainer barks. You shuffle into line, 30 boys pretending to be soldiers. The weight makes everything different. Your balance is shot. The boy in front of you staggers under his load, and you have to sidestep to avoid the butt of his spear. March. And just like that, you're moving. No warm-up, no gradual build-up. Just straight into a steady pace that seems impossible to maintain given the weight you're carrying. Your legs remember yesterday's punishment, and now they're being asked to do it again while hauling a small mountain. The path leads away from the compound into terrain you haven't seen before. Rough country, all rocks and scrub brush. The kind of landscape that hates ankles and loves to trip heavily laden boys. Within minutes someone goes down hard, his shield clanging against stone. He gets up bloody-kneed and keeps moving. No choice. The sun climbs and the weight seems to multiply. What started as 60 pounds feels like 100. The pack straps cut into your shoulders despite the padding. The shield arm goes numb, then starts to burn, then goes numb again. The spear becomes a burden you shift constantly, trying to find some position that doesn't actively hurt. But it's the hunger that really gets to you. 3 days of starvation diet have left your body with no reserves. Your muscles are eating themselves for fuel, And now you're asking them to haul this load across broken ground under the climbing sun. Your stomach has given up growling and settled into a constant ache that radiates through your core. No breakfast today. No black broth. No bread. Just water. And not much of that. A single cup before the march began, and the promise of more when earned. The trainer carries a water skin, and the sound of it sloshing as he walks is torture. 2 hours in, the first boy collapses. Not a stumble or a controlled fall, a complete breakdown. Face first into the dirt, shield rolling away down the slope. The trainer doesn't even slow down. Neither does anyone else. The boy struggles to his feet, retrieves his gear, and stumbles after the group. His face is grey with exhaustion, but stopping isn't an option. The pace never varies. Steady, relentless, mechanical. Your legs move without conscious thought now. Left foot, right foot. Don't think about the weight. Don't think about the hunger. Don't think about how far you still have to go, because you don't know how far that is. Could be miles. Could be all day. Around midday, the trainer finally calls a halt. You're on a ridge overlooking a valley that stretches to the horizon. The view would be beautiful if you could appreciate it through the haze of exhaustion and pain. Instead, you just collapse where you stand, grateful beyond words to get the weight off your back. Water, the trainer announces, producing his skin. 1 sip each. 1 tiny, precious sip of warm, leather-flavoured water that tastes better than wine. You want to gulp it to drain the entire skin, but discipline holds. 1 sip. Savour it. Make it last. No food. The trainer doesn't even mention food. You're expected to march on empty, to find strength in will alone. Around you, boys chew on leather straps, anything to trick their stomachs into thinking sustenance is coming. The rest lasts maybe 10 minutes, long enough for the cramps to set in, for your muscles to stiffen into protest. Then it's back on your feet, pack adjusted, shield lifted, spear gripped. The march continues. Afternoon is worse than morning. The sun beats down without mercy, and the weight hasn't gotten any lighter. If anything, it feels heavier as your strength ebbs. The boy who collapsed earlier falls behind, then further behind. The trainer ignores him completely. Keep up or get lost. Those are the options. Your feet are raw inside your sandals. Blisters have formed, popped and formed again. Each step is a small act of violence against your own body, but you keep stepping, everyone keeps stepping, because this is what Spartans do. They endure. Miles pass. Or maybe just minutes. Time becomes meaningless when reduced to the rhythm of marching. Left foot, right foot. Ignore the pain, ignore the hunger, ignore the voice in your head screaming to stop. The only reality is the next step, and the step after that. Late afternoon brings a blessed sight. The compound appears in the distance. But the trainer doesn't head for it directly. Instead, he leads you on a circuitous route that adds what feels like miles to the journey, just because he can, just to see if you'll break. You don't break. None of you do. You arrive at the compound as the sun sets, legs shaking, bodies pushed beyond their limits. The trainer finally allows you to drop your packs, and the relief is so intense it almost brings tears. Dinner is barley gruel, thin, tasteless, barely warm, but after a day of nothing it might as well be a feast. You eat slowly, making each spoonful last, feeling strength slowly return to your depleted body. Tonight, sleep comes instantly, despite the pain radiating from every joint. Your body has learned to steal rest wherever it can find it. Tomorrow will bring new trials, new ways to test your limits. But today, you marched as a Spartan, hungry, exhausted, pushed beyond reason, and you endured. Day 5. Trial of cold and obedience. The cold wakes you before any horn. Mountain air has crept into the barracks overnight, turning your breath to visible puffs and making the thin cloak feel like tissue paper. Your bones ache from the cold, but moving means leaving the small pocket of warmth your body has created. Around you, other boys shiver in their sleep, unconsciously curled into tight balls. When you finally force yourself upright, your muscles protest violently. Yesterday's march has left its mark in ways you're still discovering. Your calves are knots of pain, your shoulders bear deep grooves where the pack straps cut in, your feet feel like they've been beaten with clubs. But cold has a way of sharpening focus. The trainer appears in the doorway, and for the first time he's carrying something besides his stick. Buckets. 3 wooden buckets that steam slightly in the frigid air. Your stomach lurches. You know instinctively that whatever's in those buckets isn't breakfast. Outside, line formation, strip. The words hit like physical blows. Strip? In this cold? But obedience in Sparta isn't negotiable. You file outside with the others, the stone ground shocking your bare feet awake. The mountain air bites through your tunic, and when that comes off too, it's like being flayed alive. 30 boys stand naked in the pre-dawn cold, breath coming in short white puffs, skin already turning blue. Nobody speaks, nobody complains. Complaining would be worse than the cold. The trainer approaches the first boy in line with his bucket. Water. Ice-cold mountain water that must have been drawn from the stream before dawn. He tips the bucket and pours the entire contents over the boy's head and shoulders. The reaction is immediate and violent. The boy's whole body convulses, muscles spasming from the shock. A strangled gasp escapes his lips, and the trainer's stick finds his ribs instantly. Silence, the trainer growls. Spartans don't cry out from cold. The bucket moves to the next boy. Same result, same punishment. And the next. By the time the trainer reaches you, you're prepared. Or you think you are. Nothing prepares you for that water. It hits your scalp like liquid lightning, cascading down your body in streams of pure agony. Every nerve screams at once. Your lungs seize up, refusing to work. Your heart hammers like it's trying to escape your chest. But you don't cry out. You bite down so hard on your tongue that you taste blood, but you don't make a sound. The trainer's eyes meet yours for a moment, and you see something that might be approval, or maybe just surprise that you didn't break. The cold settles into your bones like a living thing. Your skin turns grey-blue, then goes numb. Shivering starts as small tremors but quickly becomes violent shaking that you can't control. Your teeth chatter so hard you're afraid they'll shatter. Dress, the trainer commands after what feels like hours but was probably minutes. Your tunic feels like silk against the ice-shocked skin. The single cloak, the same rough woolen cloak you've worn since arriving, wraps around you like salvation, though it does precious little against the deep cold that's settled in your core. Here's something the histories don't tell you about Spartan endurance training. It wasn't just about building physical toughness. It was about absolute control over your body's responses. A Spartan warrior might face battle in winter mountains, might have to cross rivers, might be forced to endure exposure that would kill softer men. They learned to master cold the same way they mastered pain, through relentless exposure and absolute discipline. The famous Spartan cloak wasn't just about endurance, it was about practicality. 1 cloak per year, summer and winter alike. The same rough wool that barely kept you warm in October would have to last through mountain snows and spring rains. You learned to treasure it, to maintain it, to make it work no matter the conditions. Spartans who lost or damaged their cloaks faced severe punishment, not just for the expense, but for showing that they couldn't take care of essential gear. Breakfast is the usual black broth, but today even its warmth can't penetrate the cold that's settled in your bones. Your hands shake so badly you can barely hold the cup. The liquid sloshes and spills, wasting precious calories you can't afford to lose. Training begins immediately because of course it does. Combat drills with shields and swords, but now your muscles are sluggish from cold, your grip is weak, your timing is off. The trainer's stick finds new targets as you fumble through movements that felt natural yesterday. But there's something else happening. Orders today come faster with less explanation. The trainer barks commands and expects instant response. Not quick response, instant. No hesitation, no thinking, no questioning. Pure obedience distilled to reflex. Shield wall. You scramble into formation, but not fast enough. The stick cracks across shoulders and backs. Again. Faster this time, but still not perfect. Someone's shield overlaps wrong. Someone's spacing is off by inches. The stick finds them. Again. This pattern continues for hours. Order given, attempted execution, punishment for imperfection, repetition until muscle memory takes over. Your body learns to respond before your mind processes the command. This is how they built the legendary Spartan discipline, through endless repetition backed by immediate consequences. The cold never leaves. Even as the sun climbs and warms the air, that ice water shock has done something to your core temperature. You shiver intermittently throughout the morning, violent tremors that shake your whole frame. The trainer ignores this completely. Shivering is just another weakness to overcome. Midday brings a new torment. Standing formation. Complete stillness. Shields raised. For what feels like hours. No shifting weight. No adjusting grip. No scratching, no wiping sweat, no relief of any kind. Your muscles scream from holding position, but movement brings the stick. A boy 2 ranks behind you faints during this exercise, just topples backward like a felled tree. He's ignored until he regains consciousness, then helped to his feet by the boy next to him, the first act of assistance you've seen all week. The trainer pretends not to notice the help, which is probably the closest thing to approval you'll get. Afternoon training moves to individual combat, one-on-one duels with wooden swords, but these aren't the controlled drills from earlier days. These are fights. Real aggression, real contact, real consequences. Your opponent, a boy slightly bigger than you, comes at you with genuine intent to hurt. You're slower than yesterday. The cold having settled into your joints like rust in metal, his wooden blade finds your ribs, your shoulder, your thigh. Each impact drives the lesson deeper. Cold makes you vulnerable. Discomfort makes you weak. Only by conquering both can you become truly dangerous. As evening approaches, the mountain air grows bitter. Your single cloak, which seemed adequate in warmer weather, now feels like a cruel joke. The wool is rough, poorly woven, full of holes that let the wind through. It's designed to be inadequate, to force you to generate warmth through activity, through shivering, through sheer bloody-minded refusal to surrender to the elements. Dinner provides little warmth. The black broth has cooled by the time you receive it, and the barley bread is so hard it hurts your teeth. But you eat every crumb because calories are heat and heat is survival. In the barracks, the inadequacy of your bedding becomes apparent. The reed mat does nothing to insulate you from the stone floor. The cloak barely covers your body. Sleep becomes a battle against cold that penetrates to your bones. But you adapt. You learn to curl tighter, to share warmth with the boy next to you without acknowledging it. You discover that movement generates heat, so you exercise silently in the darkness. Tiny muscle contractions that keep blood flowing. This is the lesson of day 5. Comfort is a luxury you can't afford. The mountain doesn't care if you're cold. The enemy won't wait for you to warm up. Spartans learn to function in any conditions, to fight when frozen, to obey when suffering. The cold becomes another enemy to defeat, and like all Spartan enemies, you defeat it through endurance. Day 6. Brotherhood. You're paired with the bread-sharing boy again. This time, it's not coincidence. The trainer is making deliberate choices, pairing boys who've shown they can work together, who've begun to understand that survival here isn't individual, it's collective. His name, you learn through whispered conversation during brief water breaks, is Damon. He's been here 2 weeks longer than you, which makes him practically a veteran. The rope burns on his wrists tell stories of exercises you haven't faced yet. The way he moves speaks of lessons learned through punishment. Today's equipment is different. Instead of individual shields, you're handed something that looks like half a shield. The bronze facing is there, but it's been cut down, made lighter. More importantly, made to lock with the one beside it. Formation shield, the trainer announces, holding up his own example. Useless alone, deadly together. He demonstrates by fitting his half shield against another, showing how they interlock with bronze clasps and leather ties. When properly joined, they create a barrier that's actually stronger than individual shields. But there's a catch. You can't break formation without exposing everyone. The morning starts with basic drills. You and Damon stand side by side, shields locked together. The trainer attacks your wall with a wooden sword, striking again and again. Your job is simple. Don't break. Don't let the formation fail. It sounds easy. It's not. The first strike nearly knocks you backward. The force transfers through the locked shields, trying to drive you apart. Damon braces against you and you against him. Your legs shake with the effort of staying upright. The trainer's wooden blade crashes against bronze again and again, testing the integrity of your tiny phalanx. Good, he grunts after a dozen strikes. Now move. Moving in formation is like learning to walk all over again. Every step has to be coordinated. Damon moves his left foot. You move your right. Shields stay locked. Spacing stay consistent. One person out of sync and the whole formation collapses. You practice this for what feels like hours. Forward march. Backward retreat. Turning as one unit. Your feet find a rhythm, left, right, that matches Damon's perfectly. You begin to anticipate his movements, to feel when he's about to step or shift weight. Here's what makes the Spartan phalanx so deadly. It's not about individual warriors being better than the enemy. It's about 30, 50, 100 men moving as one organism. Each shield protects not just the man carrying it, but the man to his right. Each spear extends the reach of the formation. Break the formation and you die. Maintain it and you're nearly unstoppable. But formations are only as strong as their weakest link. The trainer expands the exercise. 4 pairs now, 8 boys total, shields locked in a line. The complexity multiplies exponentially. Not only do you have to coordinate with Damon, but your movements affect the pair next to you, and theirs affect the pair beyond them. The boy on the far right. A skinny kid named Nicomedes can't keep pace. His shorter legs throw off the rhythm. When he falls behind, the whole line accordions, shields separating, formation dissolving into chaos. The trainer's stick finds everyone. Not just Nicomedes, but all 8 boys. Because in a phalanx, individual failure is collective failure. Your strength is only as good as your weakest brother. Again, the trainer orders. This time, Damon adjusts his pace. The boy next to him does the same. Small accommodations that keep the formation intact. Nicomedes struggles, but the line holds. When he stumbles, the boys beside him slow just enough to let him recover without breaking the shield wall. This is the real lesson. Not just how to fight together, but how to cover for each other's weaknesses. How to make a unit stronger than the sum of its parts. Midday brings expansion to the full 30 boys. 6 rows of 5, shields locked in an impenetrable wall of bronze and determination. The complexity is staggering. 30 individuals who must move as one, think as one, breathe as one. The first attempt is disaster. Boys trip over each other. Shields separate. The formation disintegrates within 10 steps. The trainer doesn't say a word, just points back to the starting position. Second attempt, better, but still chaos. Someone forgets to call out obstacles. Another boy misjudges spacing. The shield wall crumbles again. Third attempt. You make it maybe 50 yards before someone's shield slips and the whole line unravels like a badly knitted sweater. Hours pass. Your arm aches from holding the shield in formation. Your legs burn from the constant stepping and bracing. But gradually, miraculously, it starts to work. 30 boys begin to move like one organism. Calls of step and hold ripple through the formation. When someone starts to fall, the boys beside him compensate automatically. Late afternoon brings the real test. The trainer produces practice spears, shorter than combat weapons, but heavy enough to be realistic. Now you have to maintain formation while wielding weapons that extend 8 feet in front of the shield wall. This adds an entirely new dimension of complexity. Not only are you moving in coordination with Damon and the rest of your line, but you're managing a weapon that can tangle with the spears beside and behind you. One wrong move and you skewer your brother, another wrong move and his spear takes your head off. But when it works, when 30 spears level at the same instant, when the formation advances like a bronze-tipped steamroller, it's beautiful and terrifying. You understand why armies fled at the sight of an approaching Spartan phalanx. Not because of individual prowess, but because of this. Perfect discipline transforming ordinary men into an unstoppable war machine. Evening brings something new, communal dining. Instead of eating separately, you're directed to long wooden tables where groups of 15 sit together. This is your Syssitia, your mess group. The same boys you trained with, the same boys whose lives depend on your discipline, the same boys you'll eat with for the rest of your training. The food is the same black broth and bread, but eating together changes its meaning. Portions are exactly equal, measured to the spoonful. No one gets more, no one gets less. In Sparta, hierarchy doesn't extend to basic sustenance. A king eats the same rations as a common soldier. But there's strategy even in this. Food sharing becomes trust building. When Damon tears his bread and offers you half, it's not charity. It's investment in the partnership that might save both your lives tomorrow. When the boy across from you shares information about tomorrow's exercises, he's strengthening the unit. Conversation is quiet, practical. No boasting, no complaints. Just the subdued talk of soldiers comparing notes, sharing intelligence, building the bonds that hold a formation together when bronze meets bronze and men start dying. The trainer watches from his own table, noting alliances, identifying leaders, seeing who builds bridges and who builds walls. Everything here serves a purpose. Even dinner is training. Back in the barracks, the lessons of the day settle into your tired mind. You're no longer just a boy trying to survive training. You're part of something larger. A unit that's only as strong as its weakest member, only as fast as its slowest runner, only as disciplined as its most chaotic moment. Damon lies on the mat next to you, and you can hear his steady breathing. Tomorrow you'll lock shields again, move as one again, trust each other with your lives again. The thought should be terrifying. Instead, it's oddly comforting. You're not alone anymore. For better or worse, you're bound to these boys by shared suffering and mutual dependence. They are your brothers now, forged in the crucible of Spartan discipline. And brothers don't let brothers fall. Day 7. The Whip and the Will. Dawn arrives with ceremony today. Not the usual grab your gear and go routine, but something that feels formal, ritualistic. The trainer stands before an altar, a simple stone platform that wasn't there yesterday. Carved into its surface are symbols you don't recognize, but their meaning becomes clear when you see what lies beside them. Leather straps. Not the gentle training implements you've grown accustomed to. These are serious tools, braided leather that looks like it could cut through bronze with enough force behind it. Your stomach drops as the implications settle in. Today, the trainer announces, you learn the difference between pain and suffering. He gestures toward the altar, and you notice other details. Posts driven into the ground nearby. Leather restraints hanging from iron rings. This isn't just another training exercise. This is something else entirely. Who volunteers first? The question hangs in the morning air like smoke. Volunteering for unknown punishment goes against every survival instinct you've developed. But not volunteering might be worse. In Sparta, cowardice is the only unforgivable sin. Damon steps forward. Your bread-sharing partner, your shield brother, walks calmly toward the altar like he's approaching a dinner table. His face shows nothing. No fear, no bravado, just the blank acceptance that's become second nature here. The trainer nods approval. Hands on the stone, do not let go. Damon places his palms flat on the altar's surface and leans forward slightly. This position leaves his back exposed, vulnerable. The trainer hefts one of the leather straps, testing its weight and flexibility. The first strike comes without warning. Leather meets flesh with a crack that echoes off the mountains. A red welt appears instantly across Damon's shoulder blades. His hands remain on the stone. His breathing doesn't change. He might as well be enduring a gentle breeze. The second strike follows quickly, then the third. Each one draws blood, each one leaves its mark. But Damon doesn't flinch, doesn't cry out, doesn't move his hands from the stone. Here's what you need to understand about this ritual. It's not punishment. It's not cruelty for its own sake. This is preparation for something much worse than leather straps. The reality of combat, where pain doesn't stop the fight, where wounds don't excuse failure, where your ability to function while hurt determines whether you live or die. In ancient Sparta, this ritual reached its ultimate expression at the festival of Artemis or Thea. Boys would compete to see who could endure the longest flogging without crying out. Not just endure it, compete for the honour of suffering most. Some died rather than show weakness. Their names were carved in stone and remembered forever. Better to die in agony than live with the shame of breaking. The 10th strike opens a particularly ugly cut. Blood runs down Damon's back in dark streams. Still, he doesn't move. The trainer pauses, studying his work with professional interest. "Enough," he says finally. "Next." Damon straightens slowly, carefully. His back is a roadmap of welts and cuts, but his face remains calm. He meets your eyes for just a moment, and in that glance you see something that might be pride. Not because he enjoyed the pain, but because he conquered it. The next boy takes his place, then the next. Each endures their portion of stripes with varying degrees of success. Some bite their lips bloody to keep from crying out. Others clench their fists so tight their knuckles turn white. One boy, the youngest, barely 8 years old, takes only 5 strikes before breaking into sobs. The trainer stops immediately, but the damage is done. The boy's shame is visible, written across his face like a brand. Your turn comes too soon. The stone feels cold under your palms, rough carved and stained with other boys' blood. You lean forward as you watch the others do, presenting your back to the trainer's leather. The first strike is fire, pure liquid fire that spreads across your shoulder blades like spilled oil. Your hands want to leave the stone, want to reach back and protect yourself, but you keep them planted, fingers spreading to distribute the pressure, to anchor yourself against the pain. The second strike crosses the first, creating an X of agony. Your vision blurs momentarily. Breathing becomes conscious work. In through the nose, out through the mouth, slow and controlled. Don't give the trainer the satisfaction of hearing distress. By the 5th strike, your back feels like it's been flayed open. You can feel blood running down your spine, soaking into your tunic. By the 8th, pain has become a constant roar that drowns out everything else. But your hands stay on the stone. The 10th strike nearly breaks you. It finds a spot already opened by previous blows, cutting deeper than the rest. A sound tries to escape your throat, part grunt, part scream, but you swallow it. Force it down. Turn it into fuel for endurance. "Enough," the trainer says, and you've never heard sweeter words. You straighten carefully, testing your body's responses. Everything works, though moving pulls at the cuts in ways that make your vision swim. But you're standing. You're functioning. The pain is just information now, data to be processed and filed away. The ritual continues through all 30 boys. Some break early, others endure longer. But breaking isn't the end. It's just a mark on the invisible scorecard every trainer keeps. The boy who sobbed gets extra laps later, extra drills, extra opportunities to prove his worth. The afternoon brings regular training, but now everything hurts more. Shield work reopens cuts, spear drills pull at healing welts. The trainer shows no mercy for your condition. If anything, he drives you harder. Because this is the lesson. Pain doesn't excuse failure. Wounds don't justify weakness. A Spartan fights wounded as effectively as he fights whole. You learn to move differently, to compensate for the stiffness in your back without showing it, to maintain formation despite the fire across your shoulders, to thrust your spear with the same precision even when the motion tears at healing flesh. Damon moves beside you in formation, his own back a mirror of yours. Neither of you acknowledges the pain, but there's something different in how you work together now. A shared understanding that transcends words. You've both proven something today, not just to the trainer, but to yourselves. Evening brings an unexpected reward. Medical attention. Not much, just enough to keep you functional. The boy who's been here longer tends to your cuts with practiced efficiency, cleaning away dried blood and applying some kind of salve that stings initially but then numbs the worst of the pain. Gets easier, he murmurs as he works. Not the pain, the caring about it. Dinner tastes different when eaten with a back full of welts. The black broth seems less bitter, the hard bread easier to swallow. Pain, you're discovering, has a way of putting other discomforts in perspective. In the barracks, sleep comes in spite of the fire across your shoulders. You've learned to lie on your side, to find positions that don't pull at the cuts. But more importantly, you've learned something fundamental about yourself. You can endure. When your body screams and your mind begs for relief, you can choose to continue. The leather straps didn't break you. They revealed something that was already there, a core of stubborn endurance that pain can't touch. Tomorrow will bring new trials, new tests of that endurance. But tonight, marked by scars that match your brother's, you understand what separates a Spartan from ordinary men. It's not the absence of pain, it's the refusal to let pain matter. Day 8. Combat under fire. The scabs across your back pull tight as you reach for your gear. Yesterday's welts have hardened overnight into a network of raised lines that crack and bleed with every movement. But today there's no time to baby your wounds. Today the trainer has arranged something special. Combat circles. You've heard whispers about this from the older boys. Real fighting. Not the controlled drills or formation work you've been doing. Actual combat where someone wins and someone loses. And losing means more than just a bruised ego. The setup is simple and terrifying. Circles drawn in the dirt, each about 10 feet across. Wooden swords and shields wait in neat piles. But these aren't the practice weapons you've grown used to. These swords are heavier, more realistic. The edges might be wood, but they're carved to mimic the weight and balance of real bronze blades. Pair off, the trainer commands. Fight until one cannot continue. Cannot continue. Not until someone yields or taps out. Until one fighter is literally unable to keep fighting. Your stomach knots as the implications sink in. Damon catches your eye across the crowd of boys. For a moment you hope you might be paired with your shield brother, your ally. At least you trust him not to try to cripple you permanently, but the trainer has other ideas. You, he points at you, against him. His finger swings to indicate a boy you've barely noticed before. Older, maybe 14, taller, with the lean muscle of someone who's survived this training longer than most. His name is Cleomenes, and when he picks up his wooden sword he tests its balance with the casual expertise of someone who's done this many times before. The smile he gives you isn't cruel, exactly, more like apologetic. He knows how this is going to end. You step into the circle facing each other. The wooden sword feels clumsy in your grip, heavier than the practice weapons, with a different centre of gravity. The shield strapped to your left arm suddenly seems inadequate protection against what's coming. Begin, the trainer says. Cleomenes moves immediately, not waiting for you to settle into a stance. His sword comes at you in a low thrust aimed at your ribs. You barely get your shield down in time, the impact jarring your entire arm. Before you can recover, he's already moving again, switching to an overhead strike that you catch on the shield's rim. This is nothing like the controlled drills. This is chaos, violence, real intent to do harm. Cleomenes isn't trying to score points or demonstrate technique. He's trying to break you, and he's good at it. You manage a clumsy counterattack, a wild swing that he deflects easily with his shield. His riposte catches you on the shoulder, wooden blade striking with enough force to leave a bruise you'll feel for days, but you stay on your feet to stay in the fight. Here's what they don't teach you about combat until you're actually doing it. It's exhausting. Not just physically, though that comes fast enough. Mentally. The constant awareness that any moment could bring disabling pain forces your mind into a hyper-alert state that burns through energy like a forge consumes coal. Cleomenes presses his advantage, forcing you backward with a series of cuts and thrusts that keep you constantly defensive. Your shield takes a beating, the wooden rim starting to splinter under repeated impacts. Your sword arm already aches from parrying his attacks. But you're learning. Each exchange teaches you something new about timing, about distance, about reading an opponent's movements. When Cleomenes drops his shield slightly to line up a thrust, you see the opening and take it. Your wooden blade slips over his guard and taps his ribs hard enough to make him grunt. First blood, or would be if the swords were real. The satisfaction is brief, though. Cleomenes responds by shifting tactics, moving from the careful swordwork to something more brutal. Shield bashes, trying to trip you, using his longer reach to keep you off balance. Around you, other fights rage in their own circles. The sound is incredible. Wood clacking against wood, shields crashing together, the occasional cry of pain when someone takes a particularly hard hit. The trainer moves between circles like a referee, but he's not here to stop fights. He's here to ensure they continue until their proper conclusion. Your back screams every time you raise your sword. The welts from yesterday's flogging split and bleed with each defensive movement. But there's no time to accommodate the pain. Cleomenes doesn't care that you're hurt. In real combat, the enemy won't care either. 20 minutes in, both of you are breathing hard. Sweat stings your eyes and makes your grip slippery. The wooden weapons feel twice as heavy as they did at the start, but the fight continues because neither of you has reached that critical point. Cannot continue. Cleomenes tries a new approach, grabbing your shield rim with his free hand and trying to yank it aside for a killing thrust. You respond instinctively, using your sword pommel to strike at his exposed wrist. The blow connects solidly, and he releases your shield with a hiss of pain. But his follow-up is immediate. A vicious horizontal cut that gets past your guard entirely, striking your ribs with a crack that echoes across the training ground. Pain explodes through your side, and for a moment, the world greys at the edges. Broken rib, maybe, or just badly bruised. Either way, breathing suddenly becomes an active effort. You stagger backward, shield drooping as your body tries to protect the injury. Cleomenes sees the weakness and presses forward for what should be the finishing blow. His sword comes down in a perfect overhead strike aimed at your skull. But something happens in that moment. All the training, all the pain, all the lessons in endurance crystallize into pure reaction. You step inside his swing instead of away from it, jamming his elbow with your shield edge, while driving your sword towards his throat in a short, brutal thrust. The wooden point stops just short of his windpipe. Both of you freeze, understanding that if these were real weapons, the fight would be over. Your thrust found the gap between his shield and helmet. A killing blow, delivered by instinct rather than conscious thought. "Hold," the trainer calls, approaching your circle. He studies the position, your sword at Cleomenes' throat, his weapon trapped above his head by your shield placement. After a long moment, he nods. "Good, both of you. Again." "Again? You're not done. The first fight was just the beginning." This time, Cleomenes approaches you with more respect. Your lucky thrust proved that you're dangerous despite your inexperience. The second fight is more cautious, more technical. Both of you are tired now, which makes every movement cost more, every mistake potentially decisive. But you're also learning faster than you thought possible. Combat has a way of accelerating education. Mistakes that would earn mild correction in drill result in painful bruises here. Success brings immediate reward in the form of not getting hit. The Spartans were famous for their short swords, the xiphos, precisely because they fought like this. Not the long, elegant blades favoured by other Greek warriors, but brutal 18-inch weapons designed for close-quarters killing. In the crush of a phalanx, where formations pressed together shield to shield, there was no room for fancy sword work, just efficient economical violence delivered with deadly precision. The second fight ends when you finally manage to hook Cleomenes' shield with your sword and yank it aside far enough to drive your knee into his solar plexus. He drops, gasping, and stays down long enough for the trainer to call the match. As afternoon fades to evening, you've fought 6 different opponents, won 3, lost 3. Your body is a catalogue of bruises and small injuries. Your sword arm trembles with exhaustion, but you're still standing, still functional. The real lesson of the day isn't about winning or losing individual fights. It's about endurance, about maintaining effectiveness when your body wants to quit, about finding reserves of strength and skill when everything rational says you have nothing left. In the barracks tonight, every boy bears the marks of combat. Split lips, swollen eyes, bruised ribs that make breathing an effort. But there's something different in the air. A shared understanding that you've all crossed some invisible line today. You're not boys playing at war anymore. You're weapons in training. Day 9. The long march. You're moving before you're fully awake. Not the usual stumbling confusion of dawn training, but something more urgent. The trainer is already geared up in full marching kit when you emerge from the barracks, and his expression says everything you need to know about the day ahead. No breakfast, no black broth, no ceremony, just the silent distribution of equipment that's become grimly familiar. The bronze-faced shield, the iron-tipped spear, the pack loaded with supplies you still can't identify, but definitely feel. 60 pounds of gear that turns every step into an act of will. But today is different. Today, you're not marching around the training compound or up familiar mountain paths. Today, the trainer points toward the horizon, toward terrain that stretches beyond sight into the morning haze. Formation march, he announces. Maintain silence, maintain pace. No stops until nightfall. Nightfall. You glance at the sun, just now clearing the eastern peaks. That's at least 12 hours away, maybe more. Your stomach, already hollow from yesterday's combat and this morning's lack of food, clenches with something beyond hunger. Fear, maybe, or just the body's intelligent protest against what's coming. The formation that files out of the compound isn't the ragged group of boys that arrived 9 days ago. 30 figures move with synchronized precision, shields positioned identically, spears held at matching angles. From a distance you probably look like a proper military unit. Up close the illusion doesn't quite hold, too young, too lean, too obviously pushed beyond normal limits, but the discipline is real. The pace the trainer sets seems sustainable at first. Not a sprint, not even a jog. Just a steady walking rhythm that eats up ground without immediately destroying your legs. But that's the trap. What feels manageable for the first hour becomes torture by the third, agony by the 6th. Your feet find the rhythm automatically. Left, right, left, right. The pack bounces with each step, redistributing its weight in ways that constantly surprise you. Sometimes the load sits perfectly, balanced and almost comfortable. More often it shifts and pulls, turning your spine into a fulcrum that threatens to snap. The silence the trainer demanded isn't just about noise discipline. It's about something deeper, the transformation of individual suffering into collective endurance. When someone stumbles ahead of you, there's no commentary, no concern voiced aloud, just the subtle adjustment of pace that keeps the formation intact. When a boy starts to lag, the entire line slows imperceptibly, giving him time to recover without making it obvious. This is what made Spartan armies legendary. Not individual heroics or superior weapons, but discipline so complete it seemed inhuman to their enemies. When other armies marched, you could hear them coming from miles away. talking, singing, clanking equipment, shuffling feet. When Spartans marched, they moved like ghosts. Hundreds of men covering ground in almost perfect silence, appearing on battlefields like materializing nightmares. 2 hours in, the terrain turns ugly. Rocky ground that threatens ankles with every step. Loose gravel that slides underfoot. Thorny bushes that grab at equipment and expose skin. The pack seems to gain weight with each mile. Physics apparently working differently under this Spartan sun. Your shield arm goes numb, then starts burning, then goes numb again. The leather grip is slick with sweat and blood from yesterday's combat. But dropping your shield means starting over. And starting over means 12 more hours of this. So the shield stays up, positioned exactly as the trainer demonstrated, protecting not just you, but contributing to the visual discipline of the formation. Hunger becomes a living thing around the 4th hour. Not the sharp complaint of a missed meal, but something deeper. Your body has been operating on minimal calories over a week, and now you're asking it to haul a heavy load across country for half a day. It responds by beginning to consume itself. Muscle converted to fuel, fat reserves already long exhausted, the machine starting to cannibalize its own components to keep moving. But there's something hypnotic about the march too. The rhythm takes over conscious thought, reducing existence to the basics. Left foot, right foot. Breathe in, breathe out. Don't fall. Don't break formation. Problems that seemed enormous this morning. The cuts on your back, the bruises from yesterday's combat, the constant ache of hunger fade into background noise against the immediate demands of just keeping moving. The boy ahead of you develops a limp around hour 5. Nothing dramatic, just a slight favouring of his left leg that throws off his timing. In normal circumstances, someone would ask what's wrong, offer help, maybe call for a rest stop. Here, the formation simply adjusts. The boys on either side of him provide subtle support, creating space when he needs it, closing gaps when he falters. No words are exchanged. This isn't kindness in any conventional sense. It's pure practicality. A formation that abandons its wounded becomes a formation that can't trust itself. And a formation that can't trust itself dies when the real fighting starts. The sun climbs to its peak, then begins its slow descent. Still you march. The pack straps have worn grooves in your shoulders that feel permanently carved. Your feet, already destroyed by a week of barefoot running, have developed new categories of pain. But stopping isn't an option because the trainer hasn't stopped. And following the trainer is the only law that matters here. Dust becomes a constant companion, kicked up by 30 pairs of feet moving in rhythm. It gets in your eyes, your nose, your mouth, mixes with sweat to create a grey paste that coats your skin. But even this serves a purpose. By evening you'll all look identical. Not 30 individual boys, but components of a single military machine. Around the 8th hour, something changes in the group dynamic. The initial nervous energy has long since burned away. Individual discomfort has been absorbed into collective endurance. You stop thinking about your personal pain and start thinking like part of the unit. When the formation needs to adjust for terrain, you adjust. When pace needs to slow to keep everyone together, you slow. The personal dissolves into the tactical. This is what the Spartan agoge was really designed to create. Not just tough individuals, but men who could subsume their personal needs into collective effectiveness, who could march all day carrying 60 pounds of gear and still be ready to fight at the end, who could endure any hardship as long as their brothers endured it with them. The trainer calls the first halt as twilight paints the mountains purple. You've been marching for nearly 10 hours, covered maybe 20 miles of rough country. Your legs shake so badly you can barely stand when the pack comes off. But you're all still here. 30 boys who started together, finished together. Water comes first. Precious rationed sips from the trainer's supply. Then, miraculously, actual food. Not much, just black broth and hard bread. But after 10 hours of marching on empty, it tastes like a feast prepared by gods. You eat slowly, savouring every crumb, feeling strength slowly return to your depleted body. As full darkness settles, You arrange your cloaks on the rocky ground and prepare for sleep. No barracks tonight, just the open sky and the mountain wind, but exhaustion makes any bed comfortable. Your body has been pushed beyond its reasonable limits and now demands rest with an urgency that overrides discomfort. Tomorrow will bring the march back to the compound. Another day of silence, another test of collective endurance. But tonight, under stars that seem close enough to touch, you understand something fundamental about Spartan warfare. It's not about being individually superior. It's about being collectively unstoppable. Day 10, the final test. You wake to drums, not the harsh blast of the horn that's dragged you from sleep for 9 days, but the deep rhythmic pounding of war drums that vibrates through the ground and into your bones. The sound is primal, ancient, designed to stir something deeper than conscious thought. The barracks feels different this morning. Charged. Electric. The other boys move with purpose rather than resignation, and you realise that everyone knows what today means. This is the test, the culmination, the day that determines whether you've been forged into something worthy of the name Spartan, or whether 9 days of suffering have been wasted on inferior metal. Outside, the compound has been transformed. What was once a simple training ground now resembles a battlefield. Obstacles have been erected, walls to scale, ditches to cross, barriers to break through, but it's the equipment waiting for you that makes your breath catch. Real armour, bronze breastplates that gleam dully in the morning light, helmets with horsehair plumes that nod in the mountain breeze, shields polished to mirror brightness, and spears, not the wooden training weapons you've grown used to, but iron-tipped instruments of death that whisper of their purpose with every movement. The trainer stands before this arsenal like a priest before an altar. He's armoured too, more magnificently than you've ever seen him. Bronze scales cover his chest. His helmet, pushed back on his head, frames a face that's suddenly more god of war than mere instructor. Today, he announces, voice carrying across the compound with ceremonial weight, you cease to be boys. Today you become Spartans, or you fail and leave in shame. No middle ground, no partial credit. Success or failure, measured by standards that have remained unchanged for generations. The armouring process is ritual, ceremony, transformation. Each piece of bronze that touches your body changes you. The breastplate settles onto your shoulders with satisfying weight, distributing load across your torso in ways that make you feel larger, more substantial. The helmet slides over your head, and suddenly the world narrows to what you can see through the eye slits. Tunnel vision that focuses everything into a cone of awareness directly ahead. But it's the shield that completes the transformation. Not the practice weapons or formation shields you've trained with, but a full aspis. 3 feet of bronze-faced wood that weighs 30 pounds and bears the lambda symbol of Lacedaemon. When you strap it to your left arm, you feel the weight of history, the expectation of centuries. The spear feels alive in your right hand. 8 feet of seasoned ash topped with a leaf-shaped iron point that's been honed to surgical sharpness. This isn't a tool, it's a weapon, plain and simple, designed for one purpose: killing other men efficiently and without remorse. Form phalanx, the trainer commands. 30 armoured figures shuffle into formation with a sound like thunder. Bronze against bronze, iron against iron, the clash and ring of metal that announces the approach of professional soldiers. But this time, it's different. This time, you move with the confidence of warriors rather than the hesitation of students. The formation locks together with mechanical precision. Shields overlap in the classic pattern, each man's aspis protecting his neighbour's exposed right side. Spears level at chest height, creating a hedge of iron points that bristles 8 feet beyond the shield wall. When complete, the phalanx becomes more than the sum of its parts. A bronze-scaled engine of destruction that has dominated battlefields for generations. Forward. The phalanx moves as one organism, 30 pairs of legs stepping in perfect unison. The sound is incredible. The measured tramp of iron-shod sandals, the whisper of bronze scales rubbing together, the subtle creak of leather and wood under stress. This is how the 300 marched to Thermopylae. This is how Spartan armies conquered most of Greece. But today's test isn't just about marching in formation. Today you face opposition. They emerge from concealment like materializing nightmares. Older boys, veterans of the Agoge, armed and armoured and intent on testing your resolve. Not trainers or instructors, but adversaries who will use every trick, every advantage, every ruthless tactic to break your formation and prove you unworthy. The first contact comes without warning. A shower of blunted spears arcs toward your shield wall from hidden positions. Most clatter harmlessly off bronze, but some find gaps, striking arms and legs with force enough to leave lasting bruises. Around you, boys grunt with pain but hold position. Breaking formation means failing the test. Then comes the real assault. A wedge of armoured figures charges straight at your centre, trying to smash through the phalanx by sheer force. This is what you've trained for, the moment when discipline trumps individual courage, when collective will overpowers personal fear. "Hold!" someone shouts. Maybe the trainer, maybe one of the boys in formation. It doesn't matter. The word ripples through the phalanx like a physical force, stiffening resolve, locking shields tighter together. The impact is tremendous. Bronze crashes against bronze with a sound like the end of the world. The entire formation shudders under the assault, shields grinding together, spear points seeking flesh through gaps in armour. But the line holds. 30 boys, forged by 9 days of brutality into something harder than their individual parts, refuse to break. What follows is chaos distilled to its purest essence. Not the controlled drills or measured exchanges you've practiced, but the reality of combat. Screaming, straining, desperate men trying to kill each other with bronze and iron. Your spear finds targets, glances off armour, seeks the gaps where protection fails. Enemy weapons probe for weaknesses in your own defence. The boy next to you, Damon, your bread-sharing ally, takes a spear thrust in the shoulder that punches through his bronze scales and draws real blood. But he doesn't fall, doesn't break position. His shield stays locked with yours. His spear continues to threaten the enemy formation. This is what brotherhood means in combat, enduring not just for yourself, but for the man beside you. Time becomes meaningless in the crush of battle. Seconds stretch into hours, hours compress into heartbeats. Your world shrinks to the immediate, the weight of your shield, the reach of your spear, the press of enemies trying to break through your defences. Everything else falls away except the primal mathematics of survival. But gradually, impossibly, your formation begins to advance. Not quickly, not dramatically, but with the inevitable pressure of disciplined soldiers working in perfect coordination. The enemy gives ground, then gives more ground, their individual courage no match for your collective discipline. When the horn finally sounds the end of combat, you're still standing, still in formation, still unbroken despite everything thrown against you. The phalanx has held and in holding proven itself worthy of the name Spartan. The trainer approaches your formation, moving between the ranks like a general inspecting his troops. His eyes meet yours briefly and you see something there you've never seen before. Respect. Not the grudging acknowledgement of potential, but the recognition of proven worth. "Today," he says, voice carrying across the field, "you have earned the right to call yourselves Spartans. You have proven that the Agoge has not been wasted on you. You have shown that when the time comes to stand in defence of your city, you will not break, will not flee, will not dishonour the Crimson Cloak." The Crimson Cloak, the mark of a full Spartan warrior, earned not through time served or lessons learned, but through trials endured and tests passed, through proving that when everything else fails, your will remains unbroken. As the sun sets on your 10th day, you understand what has happened here. You entered as a boy. You leave as something else, harder, disciplined, forged in the crucible of Spartan training into a weapon that thinks and breathes and bleeds, but never breaks. The transformation is complete. You are Spartan. And there you have it. 10 days that transformed everything. You began as a boy, soft, uncertain, shaped by comfort and expectation. You end as something entirely different. Harder, yes, but not in the way most people think. The real hardness isn't in your muscles or your scars. It's in your mind, in your absolute refusal to quit when everything rational says you should. Think about what you've endured. Hunger that gnawed at your bones, cold that penetrated to your soul, pain administered deliberately, systematically, without mercy, exhaustion so complete that consciousness became a luxury you couldn't afford, and through it all, you endured. Not because you were forced to, but because you chose to. Again and again, moment by moment, you chose endurance over surrender. That's the real secret of Spartan training. It wasn't about creating superhuman warriors. It was about revealing the inhuman strength that already existed within ordinary people. The Agoge didn't make boys into something they weren't. It stripped away everything they thought they were until only the essential core remained. Your shield brothers sleep around you in the darkness, each one marked by the same journey, forged in the same fires. Damon, who shared his bread when you had nothing. Alexios, who whispered warnings when silence was mandatory. Cleomenes, who taught you that honor could be found even in defeat. 30 boys who became brothers, who learned that individual strength means nothing compared to collective will. This is what made Sparta legendary. Not their bronze or their tactics or their famous last stands. Their understanding that humans are capable of far more than they believe possible. That comfort is the enemy of excellence. That when you strip away everything except the will to endure, what remains is nearly indestructible. The scars you carry now aren't just marks of suffering, they're proof of transformation, evidence that you faced the worst that ancient training could offer, and emerged not just intact, but improved, stronger not just in body, but in spirit, clearer not just in purpose, but in understanding of what you're truly capable of. When King Leonidas led his 300 to Thermopylae, they weren't marching to certain death because they were fanatics or madmen. They were walking into history because their entire lives had prepared them for that moment. Every day of the Agoge, every deliberate hardship, every test of endurance had built toward the absolute certainty that they would not break, no matter what Persian Empire threw at them. Your 10 days were a glimpse into that preparation, a taste of the systematic elimination of weakness that created the most disciplined soldiers the ancient world ever saw. And in experiencing it, even in imagination, you've touched something timeless about human potential. The boy who began this journey feared pain, sought comfort, believed in his own limitations. The warrior who emerges understands that pain is temporary, comfort is weakness, and limitations exist only in the mind. You've learned the difference between surviving and enduring, between existing and truly living. Rest now in whatever comfort your modern world provides. Feel gratitude for the soft bed, the warm blanket, the knowledge that tomorrow's challenges won't involve wooden swords or ice-cold mountain streams. But remember what you've learned about yourself in these 10 days. Remember that when life demands more than you think you can give, you've already proven you can give it. The drums of Sparta have fallen silent. The bronze has been put away. The crimson cloak awaits those who prove worthy to wear it. But the lessons remain. The strength remains. The unbreakable core that 10 days of Spartan training revealed, that remains forever. You are Spartan now. Sleep well, warrior. You've earned it.